So today I thought we'd have a look through the Pikachu EX deck. Honestly, I wanted to give it a go. It's obvious that it was pretty much crowned supreme in the lovely tournament that they had, and it took first, second, third place. It was pretty much everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. The Pikachu EX is the card to have. Now, obviously, that comes with the move it's got, Circle Circuit. The attack basically does 30 damage, and then for each of the bench Pokemon. So you've got obviously 3 that you can do. Add a weakness onto that to get a plus 20. You could do to any weakness to electric 110 every turn. And not only that, it's very easy to get the bench Pokemon in there, as long as you've set up your deck correctly. But then also, to be able to actually use it, it's just 2 energy. It's very, very simple. If you go second on your turn, you literally will get it on your second go, and you can literally, from there, if you've got your bench set up, you can hit 110 on weakness or 90 straight off the bat. It's such a good method of it. Now, obviously, there is the few different versions. You don't actually just have to have the EX, the Gold EX, the immersive card of Pikachu, and then obviously the Gold end version. I think it's the Hyper Rare. They all have that ability. It's only just normal Pikachu that won't actually have the ability of Circle Circuit. That's the main thing. It's not just any Pikachu. It has to be the EX. Now, in terms of the deck, you've got a few options you can go with. I think I've narrowed it down pretty much. Normally, if you're going for it, you want to have a Zapdos EX with you. It's how I personally run. They are kind of normally the way that you can go. You can have either 2 of them. There's people that have had 4 if you really wanted to. But from what I found, I've just gone with Zapdos EX, and then I've gone with the special version just as it's one of my main special cards that I've got. But you can just go with 2 Pikachu EXs, 2 Zapdos EXs. It's more than enough to go with, and this is then where the variety from the deck can happen. So depending on how many Pokemon you truly want, I think the next most important step that is either the last thing you need or the not so last thing that you need is Blitzel. Blitzel and Zebra Striker is a cracking pair because obviously it's 1 energy for both of them, so you'll get the Thunder Spear and then also get the Zap Kick if you wanted to go on a first move. So you obviously can go with Blitzel first, get the Zap Kick on the go, and then the next turn you get Zebra Striker. And then the main thing with him is he can attack bench Pokemon. So if you're finding yourselves in a very stalemate battle, but you've got 2 of his opponents that are down completely to say 30, but they're on the bench and you've got say a Moltres up front at 140, if you put him in, he can hit the bench, so he can completely take out that from there, which is just a nice sneaky move that not everybody will think about in the low end. In the high end, obviously everybody knows that it will hit bench, so they've always got to be very precautious with it. Then the only other option that I think there's 2 that you can go with, there's Voltorb and Electrode. I would personally go with either Pikachu, Zapdos, and then either Blitzel or Voltorb. I wouldn't necessarily go for both because I want to then have the trainer cards that we go with. Voltorb and obviously Electrode, the main thing is it's 2 electric charge to be able to get the electric ball or electro ball, which does do 70, and there's no retreat cost. That's kind of the big thing with him, is there is no retreat for Electrode, there is for Voltorb, just so you know the difference. But it's just a very nice hard hitter that you can go with, but I'm personally not running that. Now the other one is Pinchurinchin. Pinchurchin. I'm going to say that wrong, but that does have the Thundershock for 2 energy, and it can obviously paralyze. If you're looking for, like I say, a very stalemate battle, you could throw one of them in just as an extra if you really wanted to, and that's just going to give you a little bit extra leeway if you're going against somebody that you kind of need them to miss a turn. It's again a flip of the head, so whether it does work or not is going to be completely RNG based, which then leads us to obviously the lovely trainers. Now, these are quite easy. I think most decks have very similar depending on the type. So if you've obviously got a water deck, you're going to be looking at a Misty, yada yada, you can get that. So I think 2 potions are an absolute must. I personally go with 1 X speed. Just in case. I mean, you can go for 2, which I think is more than fine. I personally go with just 1 because, and then I do have something else to go in with as well. Some people go with the Pokédex, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. I don't personally go with that one. You definitely go with Professor Research ×2, Sabrina ×2. I go with Giovanni ×2 as well, and then also the Pokeball ×2. And then the only other thing I go for that isn't necessarily a normal trainer no-brainer that everybody goes for is going to be the red card, which opponent shuffles their hand and they can draw 3 cards. Risky, because sometimes their hand can be terrible. You don't know that, I don't know that. It is just one of them things, you've got to guess. But it can work out in your favour if they have the most optimal hand in the world. And normally I'll use this when they've drew their 2 cards, they've maybe put a basic Pokemon on, they've got a max of everything, because then you know that they're kind of just waiting for that final turn and they've more than likely got everything. It can obviously bring some players into play, but it is what it is with trying that as an extra. But again, you could use that, or you could just add another X speed, which is obviously the retreat cost. So once you're into battle, there is very few decks that can kind of counter this without a bit of RNG, without going first, without getting heads and tails kind of just everywhere. A lot of the time, if you can get Pikachu in as early as possible, hence why you want 2 of them, you can obviously only do 2 EXs as well. You want to get him in as quickly as possible and then fill out the bench, because it's very easy then to just take out whatever's in front of you. Most other Pokemon, other than maybe like a Moltres deck that could potentially lead up to a Charizard pretty quickly, if you've not got Pikachu in ready, it can lead to Charizard being in, which then you've got to play around with it. Obviously with EXs, they are 2 points, not 1. So realistically, you can only have 1 Pikachu faint, and then it's got to be a winner. You could go like Blitzel in first and then potentially have Pikachu, but again, it only leads to 2. So unless you've gone double Blitzel and then you go with Pikachu, then obviously that does work as well, but it's all dependent on how you set that up, and a very RNG based stuff, because if you've already lost a Blitzel, then you've lost, say, a second one, or you've lost a Voltorb or something like that, then you can obviously only lose Pikachu again, but you more than likely haven't got it set up completely straight off the bat. Zapdos is always a great one. Personally, I normally try and kind of play that. I put Pikachu in first, get the first 2 energies on him, and then I start building the Zapdos. Or if I'm noticing that they're retreating quite a lot, Zebra Striker will have 1 energy turn, and then I could work on the Zapdos from there. But again, it depends on how they're setting up. Most of the time, I'm finding that you're just getting out on top very quickly. The only time it's a struggle is if Pikachu's not first in the deck. That's when you've got to really try and make the move around him and try and get to him as quick as possible to get that in, and always having that bench full. That's probably the only time I've really struggled with him, is not being in first and then potentially not having the full bench, because obviously with this kind of meta tactic, it's all about having that bench completely full. So if I've got 2 Zebra Strikers in my hand, I've then got 1 Zapdos EX and a Pikachu, it really does very little damage, and it can take a lot of damage pretty quickly, especially when you're going against the Moltres, the Misty combination, even then going against Hypno with the sleeping ability. It's just pure pain if you're against the tails. But I think this deck in itself is going to be a fantastic one to go with. I've had some real good fun with it. Let me know down below what deck you want to try out next. I'll give it a go and we can see truly, does it beat the Pikachu? But other than that, make sure you like and subscribe.